Good morning, good day, and good evening. I'm as always your host, Brody Robertson, and today we're talking about a platform that hasn't been released yet, but I think it's kind of interesting. It's not the very first attempt at doing this. Today we're talking about a platform that's going to be coming up sometime soon called Vtubers.tv, and we have some of the developers of the project on. So how about you introduce yourself so you don't talk over each other? Choco, you go first.
Hi, I'm Coco or Choco. I'm the lead developer.
I read it as Choco. Is it supposed to be pronounced Coco?
It's both. It really doesn't matter.
Okay,
It's
sure.
both. Um, I'm the lead developer. Um, I've been working on this project for about a year and a half, almost 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know how to say your name, other person we have here, so please tell me how to say it as you do your intro.
So, hi, I'm Lmay, and I work on the Vstream, which is the backend for the stream ingest and distribution.
Okay. Well, I guess the very first place to start here is, what is VTubers.tv? Obviously, it's not a fully released project just yet, but when it is, what is the point of this platform?
More of a hub, kind of like Twitch or YouTube. Definitely leaning towards more of the YouTube and Twitch route, but there are plans to do like music or like a blue sky type thing as well.
Mhm.
Since smaller creators can't really get the audience that they need or want, I want this to be the place for that.
Right. I always have to ask. Oh, sorry. Go on.
No, it's fine.
No, I was gonna sort of direct us into something like related to that as well. But if there's more you want to say there, say that first.
No, it's fine. I already. It was just that.
Okay.
My mind today is.
Well, the first thing that always comes up is whenever we talk about any sort of new platform, whether it's some sort of microblogging platform akin to like a Blue Sky or a Twitter, whether it's a streaming platform or a video platform, like, why does there need to be another platform? Like you said, obviously the building up like communities and stuff, but what is it the other platforms besides that and maybe not doing, or what is it that you're actually like really trying to achieve here with the platform?
Well,
one is moderation.
Mm-hmm.
Revenue split, especially for the Twitch, just even qualifying for that, the requirements are ridiculously high.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and our split's 50-50 by default.
Mm-hmm.
With moderation, I know there's been several creators who've gotten banned from like Twitch or YouTube for like, let's say like their clothing policy, right?
Right.
When they don't break it. So,
or even just playing some games, like the games are like ones that everyone plays, and it just gets flagged by mistake.
Mm-hmm. Right, I have seen many occasions where, I think anyone who pays any attention to the VTubing space has seen cases where the rules don't seem to be consistently applied. You'll see, like, you go to the
rules
hot
for
tubs.
thee, not for me.
Sorry?
Rules for thee, not for me.
Right, exactly. Yeah, you'll go to like the hot tub, the hot tub category, and you'll see far less clothing you'll see on even just like any sort of regular kind of skimpy outfit for a VTuber. But that is going to be treated in a far more aggressive way than you would see anyone else. Like, we can look at common examples, like, people who've had sex on Twitch and then get like a 7-day ban, right? Like crazy things like that. Mm-hmm. Whereas a VTuber that shows a little bit too much skin, month, have some time off.
Mm-hmm.
Favoritism.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
there's a lot of ways you can look
the
at it,
other
but it's a
thing-
mess.
The other thing is the adult sphere of YouTubers,
Mhm.
right? Like, there's several that I know who can't live stream on Twitch
Mhm.
because either they'll get banned immediately, or people will false report them.
Right.
And we don't. Me personally, I don't want to see that happen. I've been in the VTuber space for like almost 4 or 5 years now,
Mhm.
so I've seen a lot. So that's definitely one thing
Mhm.
as well.
And I've seen, it's not even just with the streaming content as well. I'll see the way that emotes are handled. You have these very tame emote, and they get marked as sexual content. Like, oh, you're like licking the screen, sexual content. Oh, you're like, just like really, really tame and mundane things where I don't even know what criteria they're using in some cases to mark these as things that shouldn't be allowed on the platform. Because it's one thing if you do have a clear set of guidelines. You're like, okay, nipples instant ban. Sure, like that's a thing you can follow. But when you seem to be following the rules, and even then you're treated as if you're breaking them. Again, as you're saying, it's this favoritism, rules for these, not for thee. Or rules for me, not for thee, yeah.
And definitely with like the emotes, there have been several times where people have just gotten them banned for no reason, without a clear explanation, which falls back on the platform because they should be providing that reason to the creators when they're not. That's what we try to aim to fix: is the moderation response, the the explanations between them, and how it's all handled in between. So,
Go on.
for moderation, it is going to a different topic, but it's handled as in like if your account gets flagged, it won't be banned like YouTube or Twitch. A moderator will go look at it. So you have like a
pending manual review.
And it's let's see if I can find it. It's a machine learning thing that I'm currently working on for that. So that could be, I don't know how to word it. I know some people will get upset that it's using that.
Basically, the models trained are not for automatically banning. They are just to set a flag.
Right. Right, so it sets a flag, and then it puts into sort of some sort of like review stack, and then it can be manually checked over by a person.
Yeah.
Right. One of the things I did see in the write-up is the idea of more transparent and public moderation logs, so it's clear what's actually being done. And I'm assuming that's part of what you're talking about there.
So when it comes to transparency, like we have a gateway kind of like Discord when it comes to bots. So there's events like a user ban. So third parties could like just view that. But as well as we do a transparency report every month, and it has what people have done, like the top ban reasons, how long they've been banned for, things like that. For transparency, it goes between mod and just how we operate in general. Like for decision making, it's a voting system. So like if user A wanted this thing, but B doesn't, you'd vote for it. And whoever has the higher votes wins.
Right. So with this idea of having like human moderation in that chain, obviously this works when the platform's really small scale. Do you expect that to ever become a problem? Because this is like obviously a platform like YouTube that's, there's no way that can be done with human moderation. It's just insanely big. This is obviously a lot more small scale. Do you expect to see any sort of issue with that approach?
Yes.
Yeah.
probably the primary approach would be community moderation using the vote system,
Right.
which could scale a lot more better.
And
Then,
probably because we plan on keeping the funds like for everything after like server costs and everything. So in the future, we could possibly employ people.
Right.
But that'll be a year or two later.
Fair enough. Well, you sort of have to like get things off the ground first, and then I think there's a lot of projects out there that worry about hyper scalability when they don't have any users. You'll see this a lot on like tech blogs. They're like, oh, how do I scale up to 1 million users, and they haven't even released their first alpha version yet, right? Like, obviously, this is something you want to think about, and if the platform does grow, you want to have some sort of plan in place, but going all in with the scalability from day one, you end up trying to build something far outside of what you need without any idea how much it's going to grow.
well, with the Vstream stuff, I'm not sure about Selena what they're doing with their software, but with specific parts, I've been tracking down. Excuse me, my cat. I've been tracking stuff down, like how long certain functions take and stuff like that, and I've been load testing it explicitly up to I think 100,000 requests at a time, so I can get an idea of how it would perform if it got a sudden influx. So it's just to prepare for that if it happens.
Well, I think
For my software, how do I explain this? It uses Redis to cache, and it's not really aggressive, but it's aggressive enough to the point where profiles can take up to like 3 or 4 minutes to like update. Which we use a database that costs you, I think, it's like per 1,000 requests or something like that. So that's the reason why. But
I also have the Regis aggressively caching Regis as well, because with the current database, it's taking up to 2 seconds for it to reply. So
right,
that's a bit ridiculous.
But that's basically the cloud's problem, because everything's got to be in the cloud. Right?
So whenever I think about any sort of, because one thing that I don't think we touched on, I maybe briefly mentioned it. This platform is going to be open source. But whenever I think about a platform that is open source that's trying to do any sort of video related stuff, I always think, well, why build something new when you have things like PeerTube that are already available? Like, what reason is there to do this yourself?
One is a learning experience, and two, we have control, right? So, like for our uploading, we can deploy how many servers. I mean, it just depends, because they're all written in Go. So you could deploy them and then set it up into the database, and then just do a closest server. With software that you would have to clone or pull down, don't have full control. So that's another reason.
And along with the stream relays, I'm going pretty aggressive with anti-scraper and fake users pretty much. And the existing code already does that by only storing only storing 4 video segments at a time in its memory for that stream. And every segment has a randomly generated name, the crypto random. So that means that if you block someone from the M3U8 file, which is the metadata, the playlist file, they can't do anything. They can't scrape the stream whatsoever. So there's also that.
Yeah, and the open source aspect, it's kind of, I'd say it's like 99% open source.
Okay.
The streaming software isn't as of now,
right?
Since it's in a not really good state.
Sure, sure.
And he can explain that further, but that's not going to be open source until later down the line when
Right.
it works.
Most of the code, about 2 days ago, I think, most of the code is on that repo, which is a public repo. And if you went to that repo, you can see the first thing it says, this is reference code, and it's not guaranteed to be the exact code running on VTuber's TV. So just keep that in mind as well. And I'm always constantly testing and stuff when I can.
Okay. Yeah. So there's a bit more of a delay than I would normally expect. Yeah, that would explain it. Yeah, there definitely is. So if for anyone listening, if the conversation just randomly stops, that's why. Normally Discord's pretty annoying to like handle conversations with. It's being exceptionally bad today.
I am doing a recording if you do need it. I don't know if my mic channel is split up.
No, the recording's fine. It's just the flow of the conversation is, it's gonna be slightly problematic. So we've talked.
Expected.
You've mentioned a couple of times about Vstream. I think that's an important thing we need to touch on here, because obviously the VTubers TV wouldn't be possible without that part as well.
Yeah.
And people. Sorry, one other thing. If the name Vstream sounds familiar to anyone, get into that as well if you want to.
Well, it was just a random name I came up with. I know there are existing projects with that name already, so just to avoid confusion, this is not related to the other repos you'll find.
Right.
So, because it means something different, because it literally means the VTubers TV stream.
Right. Okay. Yeah, just to make that clear as well. Okay, cool. Because I wasn't fully sure when I was looking up stuff when I saw your name listed on the site. So, okay, cool. So I guess get into how do you even approach handling video and streaming? Like, what do you even where do you even begin to look at this problem?
Well, where I began originally was I took it from Selena because they were originally trying to write the ingest server in TypeScript and JavaScript using the existing modules there. And the biggest problem we're having is that all these ingest servers, basically they put the stream key as the URL you request to when you're doing HLS. So HLS is just the video segments pretty much. And from a security perspective, that's pretty bad because that allows someone to either scrape those keys or just grab them entirely. So originally, I found a NuGet package on C#, and using that, I was able to modify some stuff, and then I got unhappy with the compiled solution, so I downloaded the source code, and now that source code's directly in there, and there's quite a bit of stuff I've modified about it to fit the application use. And one of the bigger things it does is instead of taking the stream key as the requesting URL, it replaces it with the user ID. So it basically injects it. I couldn't tell you exactly where it injects it because following up that source code is a big pain. But yeah, that's the first problem tackled. And the second problem would have been stream distribution. So I started writing the relay. This is all before I started writing the API. So for the API stuff, I was just using my own domain, my own website. It was loosely coupled to VTubers TV, like the testing backends. And it was just something I could quickly do, so I didn't have to worry about the API at the time. And the relay, what its job is to basically cop all the abuse from all the viewers at once. And even if one falls over, the point of it is to fall over to another one, so you get minimal stream disruption. I was also planning for those relays to connect to each other, but with the costs of transfer limits and stuff like that, with a lot of cloud services, it's not really viable to do it like that. So what I've decided to do, this was actually about yesterday, this decision was made, a whole text wall to Selena about this decision, and it was to put a CDN between the ingest and the relays. Because then the relays don't need a lot of ingest. The ingest server doesn't need a lot of bandwidth outwards.
Right.
Because that's the biggest problem, because a lot of these servers only have gigabit connections. So, yeah. So go to the CDN, and then the relays request from there. So it's just about balancing it all out to be cost effective, pretty much. And as I already mentioned with the relays, it's pretty aggressive with the anti-scraping, even the current version of it. And it's just done like that. As I was just writing it, this was like pretty early on that I started doing this. I believe Selena wants to rewrite all of this in TypeScript, not the ingest server. The ingest server is staying C#, but the rest of it will be rewritten in TypeScript, just to match the rest of the project.
Is that just because you're more familiar with TypeScript?
Yeah. I mainly do TypeScript and Go. He does mainly C# and I think C++, if I remember.
No,
So,
C. Just C, not C++. And I do have quite a bit of JavaScript knowledge as well, because a lot of my website itself is all client-side JavaScript, so...
Yeah, for videos, there's an issue with bitrate and how fast it gets processed.
Right.
So we kind of have to do it both. So when you upload, you get sent straight to a page to view the status. And it runs a background job. So it's not taking up any of like chunk data or like requests. You just upload it, get sent to a page to see the progress, and just it does it in the background. And that was an issue to do because Go's HTTP thing did not like that. I have no idea why, but it did it.
You've got to set. I'll just note with a lot of the software, you have to set the body size limit, because that's the biggest thing you'll come across. Biggest problem when you get into videos and stuff like that is you quickly hit the default limits. So you have to. The limits are there originally, so you can't just overload the server with like garbage requests that have just a bunch of pointless data.
Which is with Cloudflare, because we use them as our main like domain thing. I can't say words right now because me being sick a couple weeks ago has messed me up. But their response thing is like I think 500 megabytes or 250. So
for the free
to bypass
plan,
that,
I think it's 500 megabytes.
Yeah, you have to chunk it. So it takes a while to upload. With a gigabit file, which was just a test file, it took, I think it was 3 to 4 minutes. But you're not going to upload a gigabit file, or at least I hope you don't. But then on the upload server, we do like magic numbers to check. And if you were to put a magic number in that matches like a video format, we use it's called virus total. I think it's what I put in. If it detects as like an executable. So we do that. So that's the video I'm streaming.
Now, when it comes to video and streaming, obviously the first thing that's immediately going to come up is, and you sort of did bring it up a little bit, pricing and cost and not going immediately bankrupt.
Well, as I was
For
looking into it,
pricing, well, hold on. For video,
Mhm.
because I was just talking about this earlier. Um, when it comes to uploading videos on the platform,
Mhm.
you have free, you have pro, and you have pro plus.
Right.
So you can, buy premium. And it's not like YouTube. It's relatively cheap. It's like $4 than $8.
Mhm.
Um,
it's pretty
we
much to
take
cover
that
the
money.
bandwidth cost, the
Like
data usage
in
cost.
this entire
Right.
thing, and in this entire thing, we basically don't get paid. Uh,
Mhm.
Everything's just up on just uphold the service
Mhm.
because I have a job.
Mhm.
He's getting a job, so it just upholds the service. So that's for pricing. For
Mhm.
video, we have a gigabyte or like a X amount per month currently to make sure that you don't upload a terabyte worth of videos. But when we get enough money, that will go away entirely.
Mhm.
Um,
Um, I-
for
we
streaming, we did Hetzner,
Mhm.
a Hetzner. Um,
this was early on.
Lmay
This
can
was
talk about
just
that.
yeah. It was more decision making. When I was reading yesterday,
Mhm.
when I was reading more into Linode, a lot of the problem with these services is if you wanted like a 10 gigabit connection, it's
Mhm.
obviously going to come with a lot of server compute that you just don't need.
Right.
That also means a bill of $10,000 a month.
Mhm.
So, and I was like, yeah, no. So I started looking into the kind of janky ways that work out. And with Linode,
Uh-huh.
if if they've listed it like this, I'm not entirely sure. I'm gonna have to do more research. But they claim 40 gigabit ingest, uh, sorry, inbound, and then 1 gigabit outbound, and that works really well for the ingest servers because you can have the multiple concurrent streams, and since the output just goes to a CDN, there's not much bandwidth relatively to that specific outbound the outbound limit basically.
Right.
Um,
Yeah,
it's going to
and
be a bit more tricky with the relays because you basically need the inverse of that, where you need high outbounds, low inbounds. But I'm still working on that. But the reason why we didn't use existing solutions like Cloud,
Hetzner.
no, CloudFort, no, CloudFront, CDN streaming or Cloudflare streaming or any of those,
Mhm.
is because they're basically ready to use packages, and the biggest problem with those is that as have the problem of the stream key thing,
Mhm.
where that shows the stream key in the URL,
Ah.
and along with you can't really track viewers properly. You always are going to need the middleware
Right.
because you can't have it client side because that's just one way. That just makes it way easier to abuse.
Mhm.
That's why it has to be server side. So if you're wondering why the CDN using an existing CDN, why it wouldn't just go directly to the person, is that the viewers are tracked based on the actual video chunks they request, not the playlist file. So it's basically, as I said, it's to be aggressive, to be anti-scraper, to prevent fake views. Well, reduce them at least. You know, it's always going to be possible.
Mhm. Oh, I thought you had more to say
Do you
there.
want to talk about the Hetzner thing about it costing basically an arm and a leg, or
Well,
I
with
guess I have
the
to know, or maybe I don't know.
I will say with Linode, the ingest servers aren't doing much video processing. So instead of processing random streams that come in, I've opted for just restricting the specific format and resolution that you can stream at. If you try and stream out of anything outside that predefined set, it'll just immediately reject it.
Right.
So it's restricted at 1080p, 60 FPS, as you know, as soon as you go to 4K, the cost gets exponentially bigger. So 1080p is just a trade-off, basically. I'd love to do AV1 encoding. I think it's AV1 encoding. But a lot of computers still don't support it properly, so the video players won't be able to decode the chunks properly.
Yeah, AV1, I believe it's the past two NVIDIA generations, latest AMD. I don't know what Intel's... I know their dedicated GPUs do AV1. I don't know about when their CPU started doing it. Or they're there.
If you're doing it...
Yeah.
If you're doing it server side, Twitch uses these, but the GPUs, they're not GPUs, they're accelerators, they're asyncs. And their whole job is to do AV1 encoding. And that would be an ideal solution, but it also comes at a price tag of $60,000. So,
yeah.
Because it's an async. So, I do have AV1 listed there. I will have to turn it off in the ingest. But by fixing the format, that means that the ingest servers don't have to do much video processing themselves.
Right.
So all they're virtually doing is taking the segments in, and then serving them as HTTP and HLS. What that means is that you can deploy a bunch of, for example, if we were using Linode, you deploy a bunch of Linode VPS instances, and with that 40 in, 1 out, 1 gigabit out, that means that relatively it's more cost effective than getting a single server, and it scales better, obviously, because this whole, just for context, this whole entire thing is designed so you can have multiple servers at once, multiple services all running at once. As long as it's in the database, like a list of them, it will just work with the other ones. But because of that, it makes it more scalable. So as we scale more, because there'll be more income, that means you can put more servers in, and more ingest servers, more relays, etc., etc., etc. So, as I was saying, there is one problem though I've yet to address, and that's adaptive HLS. So obviously some people can't download a 1080p 60 FPS stream.
Right.
So I'm going to have to do that processing somewhere. I'd probably do it on the ingest, but you can still kind of get away with that on Linode by using their dedicated CPU servers instead of a GPU server. So it does mean more overhead, yes, but realistically, for a single video chunk, you'd only need to process about, 3 different resolutions realistically. So you'd have the 1080p, 780, 720, 480, and then 360, because no one's going to watch a 144p stream. So yeah, it's still early on, pretty much, to describe it. I have a physical Supermicro server, and that's what I've been doing most of my testing on. So I have a physical NIC in that goes to a virtual machine, and that's basically acting as a Linode instance. So it's a perfect test and stuff like that. And it's been working out fine so far. Although I did have to replace my switch because during load testing, because the virtual machine has its own NIC, the Windows obviously can't directly communicate to it unless it goes through the switch, right? And I found that my switch, it shut itself. Legitimately, it crapped itself doing the stress test. So I had to replace that out. And now, so it actually dropped out at about 100 connections a second, which is pretty bad for a gigabit switch. So, yeah, I replaced it. Now I can do up to 1,000 concurrent connections at once to the API, not the ingest, but the API, because that's more important, before it starts to crap itself with... It's just because there's just some CPU-intensive compute to do with verifying the connection and stuff like that through keys. So like API keys.
Right.
And I will note the API key format is separate to what VTubers TV itself will use for their API keys, and it's done on purpose because these services are not meant to be accessed by anything except the other Vstream software.
Right.
There's absolutely no reason why anything else should access the APIs. So, yeah, testing has become a real pain. As you said, though, a lot of people try and scale even though they don't have the hardware yet. I'm more doing it just in case there is a sudden influx.
Right.
And it's just more to see how it behaves when there is an influx.
Sure.
More or less.
Okay, fair enough. So you originally mentioned how the revenue split works, but just generally, can you explain how platform funding is going to work? Because you have these different models. You have membership-based models. There are ad-based models. Like, what is the plan here for how it's gonna work, basically?
So it's going to be a mix. We'll have ads like Google's ad platform, and it'll be like one in-page ad at most, maybe two, but that's just from like another revenue.
So far, no injected ads. That's been a big no-no.
Right.
So into the streams.
We're not going to put ads into streams or videos. That's annoying.
Especially how aggressive Twitch is with it now.
Oh yeah.
7 ads before the stream starts.
Well, for videos, you could probably have ads, just not as common, like not as much as what YouTube's doing. But for streams, the only thing that gets injected is a brief loading screen. I might have a screenshot of it somewhere. And because it adds a slight delay to the stream, yes, but I've noticed that the stream delay between you streaming from OBS and the viewer seeing the stream, like even over the internet, it's about 8 to 10 seconds, which is much better than Twitch and YouTube. There is an intentional delay in the relays because what they do is they download the chunks in advance and then serve the second latest chunk. And the reason why they do that is so they can detect an error early and then switch over to something else so the stream doesn't get interrupted. So there is a brief moment where the first time the stream starts getting cached on the server, on the relay, it will show a loading video chunk basically, and that's the only thing that gets injected.
Okay. Go back to the money making. Creators, it sounds really weird. We don't pay them if we get donations or anything.
Right.
Their whole thing is like, through streams, if someone buys a membership from them, or if they just do things like that. And we take 50% from them. And for the main platform, we take 40, and we get going based off the 50-50 split. We take 40, and the 10% goes like charity, just to kind of help people out. So there's two charities. There's the Veterans Charity in America, and then there's a homeless charity. So it sounds really bad, but by giving us money, you're also helping people. Which is not a lot, but it's the most that we can afford.
Any split from streamer donations and stuff will directly go to the bandwidth costs for running that particular stream. That's the biggest thing.
Go directly. What's the other one? I just had it top of my mind.
I will note this background image is temporary because copyright. We just don't have a good enough image yet. So,
there we go. Yeah.
And then there is
no one knows what that image is. It's a mystery.
Yes. And then there's a fallback image. I did get a public domain image for when the stream fails. So if the stream fails and it can't switch over in time, it will basically it will generate a chunk on the spot, a segment, and it will start injecting that segment instead as a placeholder, because I've found that HLS video players they are very garbage. If you've ever went on like Twitch, for example, you know how someone ends their stream and it will just sit there trying to load it.
Uh-huh.
And it's stuff like that. And the reason, as I said, the reason why it's injected is just to stop the video player from crapping itself. But it also gives the viewer information about that their stream is going to be interrupted for just a short period of time, and then it should resume.
Mm-hmm.
If it doesn't resume, you just assume the person would reload the page, meaning it would connect to another relay instead,
mm-hmm.
which then the stream would be continued on from there.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, Twitch is Twitch is one of those platforms where if Amazon really cared about it, they could fix a lot of the problems. I don't know. I don't know what they do with the platform though. And then YouTube, they just don't know if they want to do streaming or not. They're obviously focused on video, but then they have garbage moderation tools for streams.
I will note the video player. It's not a Twitch specific thing. It's not necessarily their code. A lot of code is based off. There was this element added to browsers. I can't remember off the top of my head what it was, but it's basically to reduce the usage of needing to use JavaScript to play these videos.
Right.
And the problem is that underlying layer, it's pretty problematic. So it pretty much affects all live stream players, pretty much, that do HLS or FLV. And obviously, I'm not confident in that type of code, so we're not going to modify the video players, like the underlying code, the actual code for the video players. So they're probably going to remain the same. They're probably going to have the same issues, but doing it server side can help to reduce some of the problems.
Right.
Yeah. The other thing that I just remembered is how much money everything costs. So in total, what I've done, it's about $1,500 a year for everything. So that's why
this is with how much expected size right now.
Yes, it's like it covers the video, the database, power, and bandwidth for.
I will note.
No, I mean like how. Oh, sorry. I was gonna say. I mean like like how big could the platform be with that being the cost for everything?
Maybe at least 4 or 5 1,000 people with that pricing with what I've got, and we can always expand it like with caching.
Right.
The streams are handling the whole stream backend is a whole different story, because to even have the right servers to start off with, just to have about, I think I estimated around 6 or 7 concurrent streamers at once, streaming to it gets distributed, is probably going to be $100 a month if you wanted to go all out with that. As I said, though, it can scale, but it just relies on that income. And I expect that we will hit the bandwidth quotas a lot. So that's why the donations, that's why the split goes directly into paying for that, because every stream directly would cost us.
Right.
But I will note, since ingest on Linode, as they claim it to be unmetered, unlimited, so that means that if someone's streaming with no viewers, that means it's not even going into the CDN because nothing's requesting to it. So it's virtually no cost, pretty much.
I would always check the fine print on anything that says unlimited, unbounded, anything like that.
Only on inbounds. Only, I will note, only on the inbounds. You're metered on the outbound.
Right. I would still make sure that's certainly the case, because if there's suddenly a unexpected price hike that you didn't think, or maybe not price hike, but unexpected fee there, that could certainly be a problem.
I fully expect companies like Linode to complain, because I have read a few forum horror stories, we'll call them. You know exactly what I mean, where you read about a service and there's a bunch of complaints about it. And a lot of them is where this was earlier days of Linode, where it was doing the whole Akamai thing where they were joining together pretty much. And during that period of time, I think that's when they had it unlimited. But then some people were complaining that they kept getting warnings and like messages from the service saying that they're using excessive bandwidth. I don't think they got charged for it. Charged any money for it, but I do expect for Linode to complain. And it's just something
speaking
we'll
of
have to put
Linode, they
ghosted.
it's a really funny story about them. I got in contact with them about doing like a partnership, and they agreed to it. So we got into a call, and they haven't responded to any of my emails. It's been like 4 weeks. They haven't responded to anything. I've emailed them 4 more times like the past week. Nothing. So Linode, if we have to use them, I won't be happy about it, but
we
like
are pretty much going to have to, because your other solutions, sure, there's Hetzner and stuff like that, but because it's so geosensitive, it's going to have to be services like Linode. It doesn't mean it necessarily has to be Linode, but Hetzner is kind of out of the question. For the ingest, it may not be, because you could just get one of their auctioned servers, which would be probably better, but for the actual distribution, after it comes from the CDM, an external CDM like CloudFront, whatever you want to call it, on AWS. Yeah, that it's, as I said, and we have to be careful about Asia, because regardless of what service you pick, cloud service, the billing for Asia is a lot more expensive if you go over your quota. So we just got to keep in mind. And the biggest problem is that's where VTubers and stuff are most popular, is like areas like Japan and China. So yeah, we've got to be really careful with that.
I didn't know there was any weird difference in pricing there. Do you happen to know why?
Not necessarily. I'm guessing it's just to do with probably just their data center, like the data centers they use. So obviously it's just going to be some local data center, and these companies are just going to rent rack space, and I'm assuming it's just what they charge basically.
Right.
For it.
So at this stage, how far along is the platform? I know you have the roadmap on the website and like when you're planning to launch, but in its current state, where are you at?
The main platform, 90%. I'm rewriting the front end to be a little bit more optimized. I'm just copy pasting code essentially from the old version to the new version. For the streaming, you'd have to answer that. But
the streaming,
personally, I think it'll be out. I think it'll be out in maybe the summertime or like July, around that time.
Big asterisks for the stream software, because that might not be released at the same time. So, and at the moment, I have something working. You have the ingest from OBS coming in, goes to the relay. This is all automatic with the API as well. So, and yes, before anyone yells at me, I know you're not supposed to test on production, but I'm testing on production for the databases. So streaming to OBS, the ingest server will look up your key, which would then contact the database. There is no caching involved there, because that chain of events only should happen once every few hours, assuming the person streams frequently. So the stream lookup, that will check if you're already streaming or not. If the key is already streaming, it will instantly reject it. If it's not, Then it will set its own URL to what server it's at. And that means that the relay can just look up that address and then request to it. So, assuming the relay hasn't started caching the stream, it only caches stream based on if people are actually requesting for that stream. It's not... It would just be stupid to cache every single stream happening at once on the single relay. That's just not effective.
Right.
So, the first thing it will do is it will look up. So, to make it easier for Selena, the actual video, like the stream URL, is just / and then the person's username.
Sure.
So, and that's mostly because of the video player. As I said, they're janky. So, just to make that work properly, the first thing it will do is it will contact the API, which then, if it doesn't have it in its cache, that particular user, it will then take it from the database, print its cache, and then it will check if they're allowed to stream. So there is a Boolean that basically says can stream. And then next it will look up in a separate table of the list of all the stream stuff. So the stream stuff is the user ID, not username, their fixed ID, their stream key, video title, video description, just that static type data.
Right.
If that stream is active, it will then pull the URL from there, cache it, as I said, and then it will start requesting from the ingest. I haven't done the CDN stuff yet, so starts requesting from the relay and then serves it to the client. So all of that's working, all properly. There is a weird bug where if you are the first person to request the stream and it just started caching it, there is a weird bug where the video player tries to start playing it advanced and it will start going behind and it will start playing the video segment, the last video segment, over and over again. This is not the server that does this, it's the video player. So as I said, it's real jank. It's just one of those problems you're just going to have to work around. As for actually getting it working with the website, that's going to take a little more time. And soon I'm actually going to start working on the chat distribution as well, which I'm not particularly looking that forward to because I've opted to use Regis,
Okay.
the database for that, and using publisher subscriber events on that, because then that means that you can have the multiple chat servers at once, deploy multiple instances, so they're not all connecting to the one instance. So that's not working yet.
Right. I do want to get into chat at some point as well, because that is definitely an interesting topic with the different ways that can be handled. Actually, no, we'll get into that first, and yeah, I'll get to what else. The other thing I was I'll get into the other thing I was going to talk about later. Jesus Christ, I can't speak today.
Neither can I. It's a funny thing.
So if there's anything else you wanted to say, go into that. Otherwise, we can talk about how the chat system works.
Well, you can probably... this is all still concept stuff, because if you looked at the source code, all it is at the moment is a WebSocket connection, and that's it.
I see.
The idea is, I'm going to get Selena... So the whole Vstream stuff is going to be on a separate domain, because we really don't want to hog up the Vtuber TV domain with all these subdomains.
Right.
I'm going to get them to set the cross-origin for their cookie to also include that domain. So when you connect to a chat, it's just going to verify, it's just going to grab all your information from the cookie, basically looking it up in the database. So that means that there is no way to impersonate someone unless you have their session. And from that, that's where it will have the deciding factor. Obviously, one of the metadata that's going to be sent to the chat server is what stream you're watching in the first place. But after it checks your cookie, it will check if you're signed in. If you are signed in, it will then check if you're a moderator or the streamer of that stream, and that will give you access to more tools. So it's on a per connection basis. So this is not all happening on the top level statements. This is all within a connection callback for the WebSockets. And as I said, I plan to use the Regis public. Sorry, God, I get mixing up on my words here. Publish and subscriber events. And the reason why I want to do that, as I said, you can have multiple instances of the chat service. They don't need to communicate with each other, and it just reduces all the complexity. But I am worried about how much traffic it can handle, pretty much, the database. I was looking into other solutions, but they don't seem good for this application. Like, they're usable for it, but they're more for like analytical stuff where you'd be tracking statistics from sensors in real time, not public chat.
I see.
I would rather have it more like Discord's gateway, where sending a message sends a HTTP request instead of sending it over the WebSocket. Because then you can do that extra verification through it without hanging the socket, pretty much. Just because JavaScript, it's just pain in the ass with that type of thing. Yeah, I'll just have to see how it works out. I will also stress test that. The stress testing, it's not really to improve the code that much. The stress testing is more to get an idea of how many instances I need, because there's just some pieces of code that I cannot optimize.
Right.
And because it's outside of my control, like looking it up from the database, that I can't control how much time that takes, and I can't control how much time it takes for it to load that into memory. So there's always those fixed variables. The ones I can fix, I will fix. But as I said, it's just to get an idea of how many instances you'd need to run at once.
So what's also really important to the chat system is obviously the front end you're going to give to it as well, the user interacts with. And with that comes some sort of emote system, comes moderation tooling. And how's that side going to be handled?
So for moderation, the idea is just to have the JSON body when you send a message or a message is received. And then the moderation events can also just be a JSON body. So you just have like, the first variable could be type, and then depending on the type, that's when it looks up the action for that connection. For deleting messages, that's going to be a bit more tricky because of the Next.js and stuff. The problem with that is that the IDs are randomized compared to what you put in the source, which may be a big pain to deal with when dealing with the chat, because deleting a message with the Regis, for context, with the Regis, if you use the public, I keep saying publish subscriber events, they do not store them. So it's just fire and forget. I will have a storage thing. That storage thing is going to have a limit. It's not going to store the whole entire chat at once. But because of that, what you can do is that a particular message will have a specific element ID in the HTML, and it could just be like the message ID or something like that, or the stamp with the user ID, whatever. To delete a message, all you'd have to do, client says, look up where that element is and just delete the element, and then the message is gone. And as I said, because the storing the chat log, the X amount of messages in the chat log at a time, you can also just scrub it from there as well. So anyone else new coming to the stream as a message was being deleted, meaning that message won't show up. There's also timeout. I haven't told Selena this yet because it's still early on.
Okay.
I also plan to have a timeout and ban. The difference between timeout and ban is ban would there'd be two options in ban. Ban them from that stream, or ban them from all streams from that streamer, pretty much.
Right. Oh, so you can, okay, so you just like okay, a single stream ban's actually kind of interesting. I don't see that one that often.
Yeah. So it's just to give the option, pretty much.
Right, so you're sick of them for that day and just come back later.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
And that's because Twitch has banning. I do have a friend that is like a buddy of mine in real life. He does deal with VTuber. He moderates for some big VTubers, actually, some of them in Face Connect. And he's talking about how the Twitch, to ban someone, it's pretty much banning them from the stream as well, which is pretty pointless because you can just open the stream in a private tab.
Right.
So I'm not going to bother with banning someone from the stream itself, but from chatting, yeah.
Yeah, whenever I see people talking about being banned for ever seeing the material, it's like, this is a losing game. You either have to then start chasing down people using old accounts and like doing ban avoidance, or then you have to somehow deal with private tabs, and that's a whole nightmare. Then you have to deal with VPNs if you deal with that. And if people want to see something after they've been banned, they will see it.
Yeah, even after the stream ends, they could watch the VOD or something of it, so it's a bit pointless. The timeouts, that's pretty self-explanatory. Another thing would be highlighting messages, if they wanted to do that, so it just make the message, like the contrast of it, more visible, so it sticks out more. Like, it might have a background, or it might have, I don't know, confetti, or just something.
Sure.
I'm not doing the front end. Another thing that was suggested to me is warnings. I will look into that. I don't know how that would be implemented effectively, because you could just time out somebody and then put a message in there saying why you're timed out, and that's a warning. So I don't know. I don't see why that would have to be a separate event. As for,
I guess it could be useful to have it as a separate event for the sake of the moderators, so they can keep track of people. But I guess if you have a moderation log, that also works as well.
Yeah. I kind of had the idea of that if you deleted a message or you gave someone a warning for a message, it would hide it from everyone else, but it still keeps it for the moderators, so the moderators can still see it in the chat flow.
Right.
So, as for emotes, funny thing about that, I have an old game project. I'm not going to go into that. It's just a personal thing. And I actually had chat emotes implemented already, and what I can do is I can pretty much just copy and paste that code. And effectively, what it is it's similar to Discord's thing, where you can just put in the character, type in the emote name, and then put the closing bracket in. And then it would be processed server side to determine what emote it was, and then it would be turned into a HTML element, basically. So it would just inline images, pretty much.
Sure.
And I'm just going to copy that code because I know it works.
Yeah.
Speaking of chat, this kind of delves into like the moderation as well. But I just remembered it somehow. For moderation, we have an AI called Synthara.
Again, I will note the AI is to flag the message. So basically, it would be make the moderators review it.
Yeah, it won't ban anyone. But it's like dual purpose. It works for moderation, and it's somebody like Neurosama, the AI VTuber, will be like that. But when the streamer has the option of enabling it, so the moderators can just see the flagged content that it thinks is harmful. They can take action.
Then again,
you can
this is
define keywords.
Then again, this is where you could implement your own bots and stuff as well, because it's just WebSockets. So realistically, you can, if you got an API key or something like that, you can just connect into it and then listen for those published subscriber events for a specific stream, which can then do the moderation as well. So you do have that community option as well if they wanted it.
Yeah, the point of it is just to help. It's not going to be like YouTube.
Right. Where on YouTube, sometimes I will just be streaming and they're like I just don't see a message. Like it just randomly someone just starts getting completely deleted from chat. It's not in the moderation log, it's just nowhere.
But
Great.
that's what it is. Since it basically handles all the moderation to a certain extent.
Yeah.
The streamer can pick keywords for like where the regex. So if they wanted to, they could highlight certain messages or get rid of certain messages. So,
As I said though, even if that's not
it's a bit controversial, but
even if that's not functional or it's not desired and it eventually gets removed, you can still hook in your own bots to do it for you if you wanted to. Because realistically, it's not that much traffic back and forth, especially if you have like Discord's chat limit timeout thing, whatever they call it, where you can only send a message every X amount of time.
Twitch just calls it slow mode. We'll just go with that. Yeah,
slow mode. Yeah, that's right.
I don't know if
so
Discord
if they
calls it
wanted
something
to have
different,
that,
yeah.
I think Discord calls it slow mode as well.
Maybe. Doesn't matter. The point is it's slow mode. That's the main point.
Yeah.
So one of the things I did see mentioned on the site is, like Twitch, the idea of channel points, which I like. I like random points that don't mean anything. That's always great. But obviously with channel points comes the idea normally of some sort of stream integration as well. You could use those points and, I don't know, throw rocks at the VTuber or something. I don't know, whatever integrations they want to make. How does that side of it work?
It mainly
that would
is
be
just
OBS.
Watch time. On the front end, it'd be watch time. On the back end, it'd be more OBS or VTube Studio. So mainly it's handled by the streamer.
So on the back end is just,
that's a bit,
as you like use the channel point, it would just send out a request that OBS would just be listening to.
Yeah.
The watch time should probably be handled on the streams by the relay because, as I said, it's already monitoring if that person's even requesting the video segments in the first place. So you might as well just implement the tracking how long they're watching it for as well from there.
So whenever we talk about any sort of new platform, the first problem that's going to immediately arise is, how do you get people to use the platform? What is the plan that you have here to get people to know about it, to get people to use it? Because I assume it's not just going to be just throw it out there and just see what happens.
Well, the preferred idea would be to target Asia, especially Japan, because that's where it's the biggest. But as I said, the server costs can be a bit, Right. So it's a bit iffy. It's just wait and see pretty much how it goes when it's released, because I'm not the one making the decisions on advertising stuff like that.
Yeah, for advertising, really, I know two larger VTubers that they want to use it. So that's one way. The other way, which my friend recommended me about, was fake posts on Reddit, which I don't like, but it's funny. Because there's a VTuber subreddit, I think.
Yeah.
And he said he would make fake posts, which I told him not to, but still. And then there's advertising, like video ads or whatever that we could do.
Do you have any sort of concrete plan in place for how you're going to approach it, or is this just kind of throwing ideas out there as possibilities you can approach this with?
Well, one of the approaches that Solidity's been doing is contacting VTubers directly, because if you have the people streaming on the platform, that's obviously going to bring in some viewers. Not necessarily guaranteed, but yeah. So there's that approach. As I said, there is also the geo side of it, where you'd want to target it first, because if enough people start streaming in Japan, then it might get the attention of people in USA, for example. So it just needs that initial push, and then yeah, I don't expect it to become big as in like float plane or
Sure.
Twitch, YouTube. Obviously, it's not going to reach that because it doesn't have that credibility, stuff like that. But it,
Yeah, and speaking of advertising, I want to advertise it to also non-VTubers as well, for like the tech side. Because my personal opinion, the platform could use some help. It's me and Lmay mainly. I've done like 99% of the work, and he's done like streaming. So it's
to clarify, I
having
would
help would
help,
be
but I
nice.
don't use TypeScript. So
Yeah,
just
and it's using
debugging,
Next.js, which is
anything in that combination of Next.js and TypeScript, it's just an absolute hell. It's a nightmare to debug problems.
and it uses Next because honestly, I got Vercel Pro, so it works out. Plus, I think they have like a CDN that you request them anyway, so I wouldn't need to do a lot of stuff with that.
So with the platform, is the plan to have discoverability on the platform itself, or is the idea to sort of just use it as the streaming platform and then people just, go about their day? Like, is the idea to keep people on the platform? Like, you go on Twitch, you might go from stream to stream to stream, whereas on something more like a float plane, for example, the idea is you're going directly to that creator's page, and that's the reason why you've come here.
It could be a
Both,
mix.
really.
Yeah.
Because in the future we're gonna have like art and like music, definitely, because that's a big thing. I
Well, no,
don't
I'm
want
not
people to
doing
go off the
DRMs.
platform to watch a video, but
I'm not implementing the DRMs on the stream segments either, because that's a bit of a nightmare in itself, because there is pretty much no solutions out of the box just to have it working that you can just slap on top without having a lot of pain. And of course, you've got the stupid Spotify thing where if you try and use open.spotify.com on a phone, it just immediately kicks you off it. So, and as we all know, the Spotify app is horrible. You can't even pick the song if you don't have a subscription.
Wait, I'm sorry. How do we get to Spotify here? I don't see the connection that we...
Just the DRM thing. It's just
sorry.
to
Okay,
avoid those problems that you like Spotify and stuff has. So there might be DRMs for music and stuff, obviously, but as I was saying, for streams themselves or like VODs, probably not, because you'll just have all those problems, and it's not an enjoyable experience either.
Well, maybe.
So sorry if I
I
digress. So sorry.
No, it's all good. If any direction you want to go down with this, totally fine. We can talk about anything with the platform. I'm not too worried which route we go.
I mean, one thing we talk about is like the privacy aspect, because that's a big thing. On the front end, there's like no data collection unless you sign up. Like we have to click we have to click IP addresses, because
Sure.
we use the CSIM detector.
Right.
So that
if you connect to a server, by nature, the server is going to see your IP address. Like this is. It's a concern
the default
people
behavior
have, but
is
like
to log it.
Yeah, it's the logging that's the issue.
It's just to keep me out of jail in case someone uploads something that they're not supposed to.
Right.
The only things that people could could be worried about is Vercel, but that's not that's not in my control. I
That's
can't
the
do
same
that.
situation as using Cloudflare. You know, it's a bit of a like black box solution, so you honestly don't know much what's going on there. So as the person that owns the platform and you use a service like Vercel or Cloudflare, there's the expectation that those services might be collecting user data that you're not aware of.
But besides that, there's like no data being collected. Each login has its own session, so for privacy, it's all, I wouldn't say encrypted, but it's encoded. The token looks kind of like Discord's in a way.
The Vstream tokens look a lot more like Discord. In fact, I can give you an example one. In fact, when I sent it on Discord as an example, Discord flagged it as a Discord token. So that should show you how similar it is.
Yeah, so the tokens are 64-bit. They're base 64 encoded 3 times on each. So take three decode attempts. It's time oriented. On my website, there's like a thing for you to make a token. I nicknamed it Helix because I was bored and I was playing a Helix game. But tokens look kind of like Discords.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that I can definitely see that.
So this one, yeah, I just got the message now. This contains a Discord authentication token, which it does not. So I can share this because it's just a test one. The servers are flagged as test as well, so if you try and pretend to be them, it's all local IPs, so it won't work anyway.
Sure.
So mine are more like Discord. There's virtually no data stored in the tokens themselves. It's basically a lookup. As for the Helix tokens, they do contain data as base 64.
Yeah, so that's like the user ID, general things like that. The IP is not included. That's a no for me. But it's version and data, and then just some random numbers, and then an HMAC. So it's pretty much like Discord. So it wouldn't be that easy to crack. Granted, there's a tool, but
I originally did want to use Bcrypt for verifying the tokens and stuff like that, but as you know, it's a blowfish encryption, so its whole entire point is to bloat the hardware. So I noticed under high load, it just crapped itself. So that's why I went to the HMAC instead, which I don't really like because you have to store the plain text token in the database, and there's nothing you can really do to avoid that. So I'm just going to have to put up with that.
So whenever we talk about any user data, the conversation of GDPR and CCPA compliance always comes up. And you mentioned you're not storing user data, but like, is this a concern in any way? Like, is there anything here that could possibly trip you up?
Probably the stream stuff, being aggressive with trying to avoid the anti-scraper. But usually it's not tied to a specific user. It's tied to an IP address or something like the signature of the user agent, just something like that. But if it does tie it back to a user, then that would warrant a flag to show that that user is potentially trying to abuse stuff they're not supposed to touch. So there is that concern of that. But other than that, I don't necessarily see anything else that could be a problem.
Yeah, and with the database, there's one password, and you have to be on a certain IP address to even access that database. So for security, it's pretty tight.
And as I mentioned with the stream keys,
what?
Sorry for the interruption, but even with the stream keys, even though the API should not be publicly accessed, it does everything it can to avoid exposing the stream key ever. So if I go back to my main server, there is even caching it. It does not. The first thing it does is it deletes the key after it comes back from the database. So it deletes it from its own memory. It doesn't delete it from the database, and that stops any response bodies. It stops any URLs. It's just the only place the stream key is ever used. Basically, is to when the person starts streaming. So, and basically to abuse that, you'd have to be man in the middle and stuff like that, which is more complicated when you consider VTubers, because they're not necessarily going to be streaming on a public network in a cafe.
Right.
So, it's somewhere. There it is. I'll copy the link for that.
Okay.
If you see there, the first thing it does is it deletes the... so .key is the stream key.
Right, yes. Deletes the key. I see. Okay, that makes sense. Let's see. Where can we shift to now? What have we not talked about? Oh, one thing I did see written on the site, which I didn't really understand what you were meaning by that. Model-friendly encoding. What do you exactly mean that is doing that?
I'm a bit angry at this because it's a bit pointless. This whole feature.
Yeah. So it's a fun little thing. I use, how do I word this? I have the GitHub Copilot thing on my NeoVim, and I didn't press escape, and it did that automatically, and I just didn't have the time to get rid of it. So I normally don't use it, but
the funny thing with me, except for like C#, pretty much everything I program over Nano. Over SSH. That's it. No assistive tools. Every single line of code I write is all manual. It upsets.
That was a mess up on my part.
See, I can't have mess ups like that then.
But that was a mess up on my part. I just haven't had the time to go and delete it. Mainly because I'm lazy. But that also. From that mistake, I was also going to implement it into like a desktop app, but that's future me.
Yeah,
that's.
I am pushing against not doing that because Electron. We all know how garbage Electron behaves. With stuff like Discord and just everything's a web app now, and it's just horrible performance.
And definitely for Linux, that's not.
Yeah, Electron's pretty bad on Linux.
Yeah.
Well, you say pushing
for context,
go on.
The Electron is based on Chromium, if you're wondering. So, for anyone listening,
which is great. We love it. We love Chromium. Chromium enjoyers here. So, you say pushing against a desktop app, but obviously mobile's a bit different, and a mobile app is actually something of value.
Yeah. That I'm going to do in the future, because currently, right now, we're working towards just like the core.
Those tasks of apps might be pushed to me instead, because I have more working knowledge of Android and developing for Android. But yeah, I wouldn't necessarily want to use. Yeah, that's a bit. We don't have any iOS products, and you need their products to use their ecosystem.
Yeah.
So,
neither
of us can afford that.
Yeah, the Apple distribution model. I've talked to people who've done app distribution before, and Apple doesn't make it easy. It's not even just... The other thing with mobile stuff is it's not even just one device. They want you to have a up-to-date device so you can provide up-to-date screenshots. And also, if you want to support iPad, you need to also provide iPad screenshots as well. So you also need an iPad, which is also
Isn't that
more money.
isn't there also still the requirement for like content delivery for the VR as well? I think
I
you have to
don't know
support those
about
as
that.
well.
That wasn't a thing when I last talked
That
to someone about it.
I briefly remember it, and there's a lot of developers complaining about it. I don't know if it's still the case now, so don't quote me if I'm wrong. But for the Apple VR headset, whatever it was called,
The
VR
the Apple
headset.
Vision Pro.
Yes, that
Yeah,
one.
Apple Vision
It was a
Pro.
Vision Pro.
When it first released, what Apple originally did is they started forcing a lot of these developers to also support the Apple Vision Pro, so there was more apps available for it. That's not something we're looking forward to either. Again, I don't know if that's still the case. It might be, it might not be. There's also the developer fees, where you have to pay Apple to have the developer stuff, and yeah.
Yippee! Which that's going to be fun if we do an
You might
after
take the
iOS.
Netflix.
That's going to be real fun.
Might take the Netflix approach as well, where if you want to manage your subscription, you do it outside. Like, you do it on the website instead, so then you don't have to worry about the revenue split with...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's also a fun part. It's a problem that Patreon ran into a while back, and they had to send a thing out to everyone, be like, "Hey, maybe tell your supporters to not support you from an Apple device or specifically like iOS device, because yeah, they want to take a cut of that
Android,
as well."
Google Play had the exact same thing. So don't get me wrong, it's problem on both sides.
Sure.
But at least with Android, Google Play is not your only option. So
yeah, you could sideload as well.
So you can on iPhones now, but you've got the iSheep mindset of like, it's insecure. Oh, you're going to get viruses if you use anything but the Play Store, the App Store, or whatever. Remember when Apple was saying that?
Oh yeah, no, I love the discussion on sideloading, and I just hate the term sideloading. Like, what sideloading means is installing an application. Like, if you're talking about a computer, that's literally what it means. It just means installing an application. But people are like so they're so, I guess, attached to the app store model system that they just forgot that this is just what it is. It's not some magical thing where you're like hacking the Matrix. No, it's just installing an app, not through the store.
Me win the APT bridge. Or ADB, sorry.
I know.
Yeah.
I know one thing because we were talking about discussions. One thing is rules, because that I got asked a couple of days ago.
Oh yeah, right. You're going to have to deal with if you have adult content on the platform, you're going to have to deal with the policies of those stores as well.
Yeah, that's like real fun. Personally, I'm allowing 16-year-olds, but if you want to
Not
view
for adult content.
Sure.
Yeah, if you want to view or upload content like that, you need to go to Stripe and then put in your ID, kind of like Discord, and you'll just verify from there, or they'll verify it. I don't know. I have to put that in, but I don't want to be that type of platform where it's like, oh, we're putting this in because it benefits this side or whatever. But like the main rules are mainly just be nice, don't harass anyone, don't dox anyone, don't hate anyone. It's like the basic rules. Which that I know I gotta expand upon. That's what it is right now.
And one thing Selena did not know is that you can contact a lawyer for free to review any policies or anything that you make. So
Yeah,
I remember.
Yeah, that I didn't know.
I can't remember which platform. It might have been for VTubers TV. It might have been for something else. But they writ terms and conditions, and I told them, look, I'm not qualified to see if this is like legally valid or anything. So I told him, you can just contact a lawyer, free consultation. So
yeah,
I'm gonna get them to do that again.
Yeah, that's probably a much better idea than putting yourself in any sort of trouble when someone tries to challenge it.
Yeah, and I wanted to go for like a human readable way of like these are our rules.
Right.
I think it was the EU. Someone got in trouble because they did that and they had to go the legal route, which sucks. But I think it was the EU. I'm not sure, but
that sounds somewhat familiar. I'm not remembering the exact story though.
Yeah, not either. But that's pretty much the rules. Like probably found the document on. Give me a second.
Still find it funny that Selena.
I know.
It just they hate the fact that I just program it all in Nano over SSH. Just no assistive tools.
Sorry, I didn't hear that part. You use Nano. Like Nano's your editor.
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, and he loves to throw that in my face, but
why Nano? Why not like, I don't know, Vim or Emacs or VS Code or anything else?
VS Code, especially for C#, does not mix well.
Sure.
For C#, I will use Visual Studio, and that's more because I don't want to because it's object-oriented code. I don't want to have to write object about 50 times. I'd rather have it autofill for that. But for stuff like JavaScript and stuff like, I've found that having an IDE environment for that, it just infuriates me. So I just went, nah, I'm doing this in Nano. And that's how I've done it for the past few years. In fact, even my website, which is all PHP, is all done in Nano as well.
So the consequences, you get a 24-hour restriction from chatting and commenting, and a warning message. The second is a 7-day. You can appeal at that point, and you have to read the guidelines all over again. A 30-day for a third time. That's when we actually go into your account and review every single thing.
If someone gets flagged for the content in their video, please provide a timestamp. Don't do a YouTube and go, I don't know.
Don't
find it yourself.
Yeah, YouTube.
Then a serious violation. That's a permanent ban. You can appeal after 30 days, and if you don't get the appeal, we probably might just ban your IP if it's that bad.
If your IP does get banned, that also means from the stream servers. So even if you did create a new account and the connection looks similar enough, it will just outright reject it immediately.
So that's the guidelines and consequences.
You're saying there about YouTube not giving you timestamps. They give you timestamps for copyright stuff. They're more than happy to do that. But anytime it's a community violation, it's like
community guidelines.
Yeah,
never.
Like I got
speaking of DMCA, that's another topic.
Right.
That's very interesting.
You're going to have a portal for that.
Yeah, but if you want to file one, you have to submit it. We won't give up the info immediately, but we'll alert the VTuber about it.
The biggest problem with DMCA is that it's probably going to have the same problems with YouTube because it's not a fundamental flaw with YouTube, it's a fundamental flaw with the laws itself, where the two parties have to expose their information to each other, and that's just going to comply with that, especially in the US context, is going to be a pain because it might end up like the mess that YouTube is.
Yeah, that's why I'm trying to opt for discussing it between us and the accuser, and then if we can't discuss it, then we'll give up information if we can.
Right. Yeah, YouTube doesn't want to have anything involved in that conversational.
Yeah.
I think that's the main problem that YouTube has. Like, they will just let...
Because they just want to comply with the laws. That's
Yeah.
it, realistically.
Yeah.
Like, YouTube will let entirely false claims go through, and it's like, okay, we'll sort it out in court. It's like... surely that... I know why they do it like that, just because the scale of YouTube, but when you can... Like, you know, I've seen people get claims from people saying they own the Minecraft music. It's like, no, you don't.
Yeah, Warner Brothers.
Yeah. Or like, yeah, that's a recent example, actually. I didn't even think of that one. But yeah, like, it's other cases where it's just someone who blatantly doesn't own something, who claims they do, or they've made like a remix of it and they use their remix to say they own the original. Like, dumb things like that. I've had a number of cases like this on my channel before. It's very fun.
From a person who's been in this community for that long,
mm-hmm.
I know the dangers of letting people know your information. Like,
yeah.
Especially for VTubers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was a person, like, I don't want to bring it up,
mm-hmm.
but there was a person who got stalked because they leaked their information.
Yeah.
And I think the person broke in, so that's not something I.
Yeah, there's a lot of weirdos. There's another case where where they went to a conference, like a content creator conference thing. I can't remember the specifics of it.
Mm-hmm.
And she was given a gift. I think it was like a stuffed toy. That stuffed toy had a tracker.
Yeah, it had an air tag or something like that. Yeah,
tractor. So that we want to protect people in case like that, like platform wise, like we can't protect everyone, but
sure. You can't protect people from things off platform.
Yeah.
Yeah, the DMCA problem is copyright law is just it's broken, right? Like, and I don't think anyone's gonna argue that at all. Like, it's built for a time prior to the internet, and maybe in 30 years things will be good for what they are today, but then there'll be new problems that have arisen by then.
Mm-hmm.
The joys of technology and law that mix together.
Well, they don't mix. It's like oil and water.
Yeah, well, they try to mix. So you get these like haphazard solutions to try and comply to the law in ways where they don't really fit in with how things are being done today, which is great and makes everyone's life very very nice. But hey, you got to work with it. So you're not gonna change the law yourself. So you kind of just have to comply with it the best that you can.
I guess this falls into DMCA, but also about the platform, because I just looking through my Discord. I made an announcement inside the server, like a poll. I used to run a project called Goddess Anime. It was like an anime card game.
Okay.
But on Discord, and I had the idea of bringing it back. So that might come back. I might incorporate that into the project. I don't know how yet. But this is why I shouldn't lead projects like this, because I have these ideas, and it just. But that's another way of like of advertising is that. That I looked about of like open source stuff, because I'm in open source entirely. I'm into Linux and all that, so I can market it towards that. But I don't see why a normal user would want to watch VTubers. Still pretty niche. But
again, it really depends on the region.
Yeah, like in the West, it's niche, but.
Seen a bit taboo, actually. Seen as a weirdo.
Yeah, I mean, there have been some examples of like Gargura at like a baseball game, but that's about it.
Right.
Also, I apologize if I sound rushed. it's like 90 degrees in my room, and
Ah.
sweating.
It's yeah, typical Australian weather. It's probably about 30 degrees in my room right now. So
Yeah, it's not
90
that hot outside,
degrees
but
with a
it's
90% humidity.
That's fun. I don't miss that.
it's been hot in my room. So if I sound quiet or like rushed, then that's what it is.
Right. So one thing I do want to get into, you haven't really. We kind of touched on it, but I kind of want to like dig deeper on this. Is the kind of allowed content on the platform, right? Like, because there's a big range of what VTubers do, and there is obviously Twitch has their issue of not applying their rules consistently, but like, to what extent of content are you allowed to have on the platform? Like, you know, is it going to be just like allowing just regular sort of Twitch stuff and not abusing the rules in stupid ways? Or are you going like all in, hey, you want to do like OF stuff, go for it? Like where's our line being drawn?
For general stuff, it's gonna be like Twitch. The rules are pretty strict on the general side. Like if you have a model that has a little bit too much skin, it depends. Like if you take every piece of clothing off, then yes, that is an issue. But if it's like a swimsuit, you're not going to get flagged, or we're not going to go after it. For the other side, kind of aggressive in the ruling, but it's also not. Like we don't allow. I don't want to say problematic content, but you can kind of let your imagination just go with that.
Yeah,
that's like a
let's
rule.
just throw the word lolly out there.
Yeah, lolly's a big thing. Lolly and Choco is a big thing. That's controversial, but generally speaking, we do allow those type of models on the general side. If they're not obscene and
big asterisks.
Yeah, if it's just like normal child looking, then whatever. But if you start up with that type of content, it becomes problematic, and you'll just get banned immediately. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But yeah, you can pretty much just do anything as long as it's not illegal. So.
Right. Okay, let's see here. So, what should we have? Oh, we've only like kind of like briefly touched on analytics in the context of like CCV, but what are the plans here? Are there for, you know, knowing potentially like, because like YouTube, they collect everything about you. Like I have hyper detailed statistics on my audience. What is the plan here? Because obviously you've talked about not wanting to do a lot of user tracking because, you know, user tracking bad. But like what, like yeah, what level of analytics are going to be available to the creator?
Mainly age, but like just like a general age of like, hey, this person's like in their 20s or 30s, like not hyper detail.
Age ranges.
It'll show like like age ranges. It'll show like the most common country, like if you're in Japan or America, then like things like click events, like they hit follow on this video, or they went onto your page and clicked follow. Things like that. Not a lot to comply with privacy,
right?
But that may change. It's still working that out. Streaming, Lmay would have to do something about that.
One of the things I do like on that YouTube does as of fairly recently is letting you know the other channels that your viewers watch. I think Twitch does it as well. Yeah. Just have like a general idea of the other kind of content they like.
Yeah, that's something a member East Rhea.
Mhm.
That's what they recommended was that. Um, they also recommended like what videos people would be more interested in based off like followers
Mhm.
or views. Um, then there's the recommendation side,
Mhm.
which that don't really want to get into that. That's data collection beyond my imagination, but
Mhm.
um, I still want it to be small in the data context.
Mhm.
One for storage and two for user privacy. Because one piece of data can like outline millions of people,
Mhm.
and then if you put two, that becomes 1,000 people. If you
Right,
put
right.
three, that's 100 people. Um, so I don't want to track users. I don't want to fingerprint them.
Mhm.
Um, I want it to be like, wouldn't say signal in terms of data collection, but close, where it's basically nothing.
Mhm. Mhm.
So what you
It
need.
becomes a point though where it's kind of unavoidable, so it just depends how it works
Yeah,
out.
Sure, sure. Okay,
like
so
Cloudflare, they'll collect stuff that we don't have any
sure,
control
yeah,
over.
yeah. Um, yeah. Well, that's if you're going to use Cloudflare, it's kind of unavoidable with what Cloudflare is going to do.
Mm-hmm.
So,
For the
oh
stream
yes.
stuff, I'd rather use Cloudflare as just the DNS
Mhm.
and maybe the DDoS protection if a certain cloud provider doesn't offer it. So,
So, okay, one thing I do want to get into, I don't know why we hadn't talked about this before, is the roadmap towards release, and then what happens after release.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah,
I
what does this look
guess
like?
the roadmap currently,
Mhm.
I'd say, is more me just fixing things that need to be fixed.
Mhm.
Then Lmay's is his own. For accurate
yeah,
releases, I plan on
I don't have a lot of
I plan
time
on
to
doing
work on
a
Vstream.
yeah. He has like school and stuff to do,
Right,
which
right.
sucks. But um uh he not he my bad. I'm still stuck. For releasing, it's like a wouldn't say like a alpha, but you could sign up and we limit it to like I think put it as like 500 people a month.
Mhm.
But just be safe. If it does happen, just blow up immediately.
Mhm.
Um, then we'll just do small scale testing with like say 1,000 people, which not really small, but small enough
Mhm.
to get some real world stuff. Um,
Especially
then
cost.
uh, yeah, then I'll fully release. Then I'll disappear for like 2 weeks because this has been really draining on me,
Mhm.
uh, health wise, because I stayed up till like 4 in the morning, 5, 6. It's just been a wreck.
Mhm.
So that's the release. Um, I guess uh, contributions because it is open source. We do want we don't want people to like contribute.
Mhm.
Um, so that's a thing that if something needs to be fixed,
Mhm.
someone can just make a patch for it and just make a PR.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, or merge if you're on GitLab or whatever. So that's what the release and roadmap looks like. I just got to finish the one or two things, and uh, I want to do like packages of like a Node or .NET for like the API,
Mhm.
like if you want to make a pod or whatever.
Right, right, right.
Yeah,
So, what do things look like on the Vstream side?
That it super depends. It's hard to say with the limited time I have
Mhm.
weekly to work on it. So it may have to be released at a later date because it's kind of on its own roadmap
Mhm.
to say as a stuff as I said earlier, I've got the chat stuff to work on, and then other things with that, improving the API. Eventually, the database is going to be swapped over for a different database, which I'll have to reprogram around that with like the user database and stuff.
So once the platform is released, what is the state of it going to look like once you've gone through those like alpha, beta sections? At full release, what is the state things should be in?
State-wise, it should be functional.
That's a good
some
start.
parts, at least. I hope. But yeah, besides like live streaming, everything should be functional. The only thing I guess not working is maybe like an upload server. If it doesn't want to work with like Linode, then that would hit its pants. But that's out of my control with Linode. A lot of things are out of my control because depending on the cloud environment, it's not easy.
Right.
Which I plan on, if we get big enough and get enough money, to switch off of it to an actual data center that's near me and Lmay. And
problem with that is the renting rack space. I'd probably be the ones configuring the servers themselves, but rack space is not cheap, so that's way down the line.
It'll be way in the future. It'll be way into the future, but that's, I guess, answers your question. Like, unless I'm misunderstanding it.
No, I'm just curious. Like what features that are not ready yet should be ready by then? Like what? Yeah, generally, just like where should the platform be?
Emojis wouldn't be ready yet because kind of like emotes stuff. The video uploading would definitely be there. I do want to do like I kind of want to pull like a Reddit into like a little mini like forum type thing for like different creators. And then like events, like we're hosting X game on X date, and then you have like a amount of people joining.
Right.
Then one thing I wanted to do, which Lmay stopped me on, was like the premiere feature. I don't know how we do that. Not us to do it in like and like intervals of 5, like 6:35, 6:40, 6:45. But
right.
That might come in the future. But besides that, that's pretty much it. Translations would be pretty much there for English
Push
and Japanese.
notifications as well.
Yeah. I know some Japanese, so it wouldn't be hard for me to do that. So yeah, that's.
So if people wanted to, help out, get involved, because you did say, you wanted this open source thing. Like, what are things that you need the most help on? I would imagine translations, having languages that are, not languages probably would serve some value. But is there anything else that maybe would need some help that you want to mention?
SDKs like for like .NET or NPM. That was another thing. Helping with like the models and stuff. That's definitely another one.
Anything on the Vstream side you want to mention?
Probably help on improving the code, because the core function of it is not going to change anytime in the future. But yeah, pretty much just help on that in general.
Okay. Sorry, but Mike can't interrupt me. That's fine. What I was saying was like models of like a machine learning and
Right,
the
yeah.
recommendation system that's fit. That's pretty much it. Besides the main.
Okay. Is there anything that maybe we hadn't touched on yet that you think we probably should mention?
I don't think so. Not as high as
Probably
something.
handling real-time notifications. But I could probably take the same concept as with the chat and just wouldn't use Regis for it. Probably would use a different database that's more suitable for it, or not database, or memory cache, whatever you want to call it. It's more suitable for it, but just the publisher subscriber events for that as well, with multiple instances listening to it. Which there are definitely software more optimized for that than Regis.
There's another thing, and that's governance. Because I had someone ask me about that. Is the governance model? Because technically, I'm the lead developer and I'm the owner. But also, Lmay has been there and gave me stuff to do. So if I go here, it's a democratic and a metrocratic system. So like someone contributes, they are just a contributor, but if they contribute on a regular basis, they can be invited to join the unofficial dev team, or they can go into like certain Discord channels, and then they could be promoted to like core team, like me and Lmay, if they contributed like a million different things. And you would have to vote on that too, but
okay.
Yeah, core team members serve 1-year terms, but that's just for not me and Lmay.
Okay, cool. I guess that's pretty much everything then, I reckon. I don't think there's anything else that we need to cover here. When do you plan to launch it? I probably should have asked that.
Month, 2 months, or 3 months. It's like around that range.
Okay.
It depends on if I'm sick or not.
Fair enough.
So,
as for the streaming side of it, that super depends on the free time I have.
Right. Okay. I guess we'll sign off there. Let people know where they can find the project, get involved with it. Any links you wanna tell people about?
it's the main website, the Vtubers .tv, and then the Discord is just that, but just slash Discord,
and probably that as well.
The Vstream backend. That's just
Yep.
Yeah. It's Winton device / Vstream / or dash backend on GitHub.
Okay. Nothing else then? That's all the links you wanna tell people about? Is that all the links you want to mention? Yes? No? Maybe? Did I DC? Two hours in's the first DC. Lovely. Perfect. What a great tool this is. I love Discord. I love the MBN. Hello. Can you hear me now?
You enjoying that MBN there?
Yeah, the MBN's great. I love it. What a great system. Anyway,
Telstra.
I was saying, I when that happens, sometimes the people I'm talking to can still hear me, so I assume you could. Was there anything else you wanted to mention there? I couldn't hear anything you were saying.
Yeah, probably.
Besides the website, I guess my website, because that has some tools for the platform, is just choco.rip.
Okay, cool.
That just has some basic information about the platform.
Sweet. Yeah. Is that it then?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, my main channel is Brody Robertson. I do Linux videos there 6-ish days a week. I sometimes stream there as well, so check that out if that is a thing for you. I've got the gaming channel, Brody on Games. Right now, I probably am still streaming Portal 2, and I may have finished Strangers of Paradise, so I might be playing something else. Check it out. You see what's there. I have the React channel, which I upload clips to. That is Brody Robertson Reacts. If you want to watch the video version of this, you're listening to the audio version. The video is on YouTube at Tech Over Tea. The audio version is on pretty much every audio podcast platform. It's on Spotify. It's on Apple, whatever they call it. Spotify has video, which is neat. There is an RSS feed as well, which is also cool. So, I will give you both the final word. What do you want to say? How do you want to sign this off? I never tell people they're doing this. I like to see them struggle.
I love Cottontail. Just let that be out there forever. I love her.
Yes.
That's what I've got to say.
Okay.
This is gonna make everyone awkward.
Lay, do you have anything to say to sign this off, or you just want to just like not say anything? That's fine as well.
I gotta say, I'm not using Neovin.
Fair.